The first tremors of war echoed across the void like a mournful song, but humans heard them differently. To them it was a call, a challenge whispered through the cold emptiness of space. The alien armada, vast and glittering like a storm of jeweled suns, stretched beyond sight, their hulls pulsed with energy, and their weapons carved through stars as if they were fragile glass. They called themselves the Virelians, a species of disciplined warriors, sharp minds, and merciless hearts. To the universe they were inevitable, unstoppable. But humans were impossible. On the bridge of the Odyssey, Captain Elara Wynn stared at the Virelian fleet. Her eyes, calm and intense, reflected the starry void outside the viewport. "They believe fear is enough," she said softly. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Kale Arden, leaned closer, eyebrows drawn tight. "Fear hasn't worked yet?" Kyle asked, voice edged with tension. Elara shook her head. "Not on us. They don't understand humans. They think logic and firepower decide victory. They are wrong." The Odyssey's crew, a mix of engineers, tacticians, and dreamers, moved like a well-oiled machine. Each action deliberate, each glance purposeful. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and perhaps destined to be crushed. But in their hearts burned something the Virelians could not calculate. Imagination. Beyond the massive viewport, Virelian ships began their approach, a coordinated advance designed to intimidate and annihilate. Sensors blared warnings, lights flickered with imminent danger. Elara didn't flinch. "Deploy the Mirage drones," she commanded, voice steady. "Let's show them a new kind of battle." Kale frowned, unsure. "Mirage drones? Against a fleet this large?" "Exactly," Elara said with a small, confident smile. "If they expect humans to fight like them, they will fail before we even fire a shot." Below deck, engineers Mira Solon and Terran Voss worked tirelessly, programming the drones with unpredictable maneuvers, chaotic flight paths, and deceptive holographic signals. Each drone was a trickster, a phantom. By the time the Virelians realized what was happening, hundreds of ships were firing on ghosts, wasting energy, and exposing weak points. High above, Elara watched as the Virelians' coordination faltered. Their precise formations twisted into confusion. Panic, a concept alien to them, tinged their disciplined ranks. Humans did not need sheer power. They needed cunning, but war was never only about strategy. It was about the courage to face despair, the stubbornness to rise even when all seemed lost. On the bridge, Kale glanced at Elara, noticing a flicker of doubt in her eyes. "Do you ever wonder if we'll make it?" Elara looked out at the stars, each one a silent witness to human resilience. "Every day," she admitted. "But it doesn't matter. Victory isn't a guarantee. It's the refusal to surrender that defines us." Suddenly, a massive shockwave rippled through space. One of the Virelian capital ships had fired, its weapon cutting a luminous swath through the darkness. The Odyssey shuddered, alarms blaring, but the crew held firm. Mira's voice came over the intercom, laced with excitement. "Drones deployed, initiating holographic decoys. Targets locked." Elara clenched her fists. "Now, Kale. Now we turn their certainty into chaos." The space around them erupted in flashes of light, as if a constellation had fallen to Earth. Virelian lasers struck nothing but illusions. Their precision, once flawless, failed miserably against humans' unpredictable ingenuity. And in that failure, hope surged, raw, undeniable, and unstoppable. For the first time, the Virelians saw something in humans they could not suppress, could not calculate, and could not conquer. A spirit that refused to bow, a cunning mind that found freedom in chaos, and a heart unbroken by the void. Elara's voice, calm but commanding, carried across the bridge. "We survive not because we are strong, but because we refuse to be defeated. Remember that, crew. Today we begin a legend." Above them, stars sparkled as if the universe itself leaned closer to witness. Somewhere in the dark, endless expanse, human tenacity began carving its name into eternity. The Odyssey glided through the star-streaked void, its hull scarred by near misses, but its spirit unbroken. Elara Wynn paced the bridge, the hum of the ship beneath her feet a steady reminder that humanity could endure. Around her, crew members worked with the quiet intensity of artists and warriors blended into one, a symphony of purpose. Cale Arden sat at the tactical console, eyes scanning the distorted holographic images. "Captain, the Virelians are reorganizing," he said. "They've noticed the drones are more than distractions. Their formation is adapting." Slowly, Elara nodded. "Slowly is good. Slow gives us time to think. Humans are nothing if not patient." In the mess hall, Mira Solon and Terran Voss exchanged a glance over steaming cups of synthesized coffee. Their faces were pale, but their hands moved with the confidence of minds that refuse to be intimidated. "Every ship we mislead, every tactic we improvise, it counts," Mira whispered. "Even if they destroy us tomorrow, we're making them doubt themselves." Terran gave a faint smile. "Doubt is dangerous for them, especially when they've never experienced it before. That's our weapon." Back on the bridge, a new alarm blared. A massive Virelian dreadnought had broken through the outer perimeter. Weapons locked on the Odyssey. The bridge fell silent, each crew member holding their breath as if waiting for the end. Elara's calm voice cut through the tension.
"Cale, engage the Phantom sequence." "What? That's
risky," Kyle said, his fingers hovering over the controls. "Risky is better than predictable," she replied. Her eyes, sharp and unwavering, swept across the bridge. "Humans don't win by waiting. We win by turning fear into opportunity." With a low hum, the Odyssey's engines flared. Tiny drones scattered into the void, trailing invisible electromagnetic signatures that mimicked entire fleets. The Virelians reacted immediately, firing volleys into empty space, their accuracy faltering. The crew held their positions, hearts pounding, minds racing. In that moment, they were more than soldiers. They were the embodiment of human ingenuity. They knew every failure would teach them something. Every near-death experience sharpened their instincts. Yet the psychological weight was heavy. Even humans could feel fear. Elara sensed it in Cale's tension, in Mira's fleeting hesitation, in Terran's quiet mutterings. "Fear is a shadow," Elara said softly, as if speaking to herself. "It can cloud judgment or it can sharpen it. Choose wisely." She turned her gaze outward to the looming mass of Virelian ships. The dreadnought fired, a comet of energy slicing toward the Odyssey. Sensors blared, crew braced. But the Odyssey moved as though it had a mind of its own, weaving between laser streams cloaked by a web of decoys. Kyle let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. How are we still alive?" Elara smiled faintly. "Because humans are not defined by brute strength. We adapt, we imagine, we endure. Every battle teaches us something the universe cannot predict." In the chaos, the crew discovered a truth they hadn't anticipated. Vulnerability was not weakness. It was human. It was courage worn like armor. Mira's hand shook as she adjusted the drone matrix. I thought we would die," she admitted. "But somehow, we're winning." "Yes," Elara said, her voice a mixture of pride and gentle reassurance. "Because winning isn't about destroying them first. It's about surviving long enough to make them falter. And humans, we never stop." Hours passed. Stars whirred past like streaks of light, each moment a test of endurance, each decision a gamble. The Virelians, unaccustomed to unpredictability, began to hesitate. Their coordinated strikes lost precision. Confusion crept into their ranks, subtle at first, then unmistakable. And in that hesitation, the humans saw a glimpse of victory. Not complete yet, not even close, but within reach. Elara's eyes met Cale's. "They think they are gods of war," she said quietly. "But we are the storm they cannot calculate." The bridge hummed with silent determination. Every crew member understood. The fight was far from over. Yet in the depths of fear, they had found their strength, their resilience, their humanity. In the endless expanse of space, humans were small, fragile, and improbable, but impossibly clever, impossibly daring, and impossibly alive. Above them, stars twinkled as if nodding in approval, as though the universe itself recognized that human ingenuity was a force the cosmos could not ignore. And somewhere in that infinite darkness, a legend was beginning. One written not in conquest but in courage, cunning, and the indomitable spirit of humanity. The void outside the Odyssey had become a theater of light and shadow. Laser fire illuminated the darkness like sudden thunderstorms across a night sky. For the Virelians, every strike that failed against the human ship was a wound to their pride, a crack in their certainty. For the humans, every maneuver, every trick deployed was a testament to their survival and cunning. Captain Elara Wynn stood at the command console, eyes narrowed, mind racing. The Virelian dreadnoughts had regrouped after hours of confusion, and their new formations were sharper, more cautious. But caution was not a strength humans couldn't exploit, it was a window. "Kale, initiate the echo sequence," Elara ordered, her voice precise and unyielding. Kale blinked. "Echo sequence? That's untested in live combat." "That's why it works," she replied, her tone almost gentle. "The Virelians expect patterns. They can predict strategy, but they cannot predict chaos born of human instinct." Below deck, Mira Solon and Terran Voss synchronized the drone systems. Hundreds of micro-drones swarmed the battlefield, emitting false sensor readings and holographic projections of ships, engines, even entire fleets. The Virelians reacted immediately, wasting energy and exposing vulnerable flanks. The Odyssey weaved through the illusion, a phantom among phantoms, dodging enemy fire while quietly analyzing the enemy's weak points. But even the most brilliant tactics could not erase human vulnerability. In the mess hall, Mira's hands shook as she updated the drone algorithms. "Every time I create a new decoy, I feel like I'm sending us closer to death," she admitted softly to Terran. Terran placed a steady hand over hers. "Fear doesn't mean failure. It means we care. We survive because we refuse to let fear decide our fate." On the bridge, alarm screamed as a Virelian frigate broke through the defenses, its weapons tracking the Odyssey. Kale's fingers danced over the controls, sweat beating at his temple. "Elara, it's too close," he shouted. Her calm eyes met his. "Too close is where humans thrive. Remember what we are." With a subtle twist of the engines, the Odyssey spiraled, appearing to vanish from enemy sensors, while the drones amplified false signals elsewhere. The Virelians fired blindly, energy beams slicing through empty space. The humans' audacity, their unpredictability, turned each near-death encounter into a calculated advantage. Yet war was more than numbers and tactics. It was the human mind, fragile yet unyielding, that defined the outcome. Elara felt the weight of every decision pressing on her. Every choice risked lives, every maneuver could be the last. But with fear came clarity, the awareness that courage was not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. Hours blurred into tense minutes. Communication channels crackled with reports of Virelian confusion. Ships collided in misjudged maneuvers, some destroyed by their own weapons in the chaos humans had crafted. For the first time, the Virelian command structure faltered. Kale leaned back in disbelief. "They're panicking. Their coordination is collapsing." Elara's lips curved in a faint smile. "We don't destroy them yet. We let them destroy themselves. Humans fight differently. They see opportunity where others see danger." Then came the unexpected, a signal, ancient and alien, penetrating the Odyssey's long-range sensors. A message from the Virelian High Command, a demand for surrender. Elara read the transmission aloud, her voice steady. "Surrender or face annihilation." The bridge fell silent. Even Kale, who rarely showed hesitation, stiffened. Elara's gaze swept across her crew. "Do you hear them?" she asked softly. "They think we will fear them, that we will bow. But humans, we rise." Mira exhaled, her fingers trembling as she worked the drone interface. We can turn this," she whispered. "Their fear is now ours to manipulate," Elara nodded. "Exactly. Prepare the next phase, the Labyrinth Protocol." Kyle's eyes widened. "Labyrinth Protocol, that's a last resort strategy." "And last resort is where humans shine," Elara replied firmly. "We are not bound by the predictable. We are the storm they cannot foresee." As the Odyssey and its crew moved into position, the Virelian fleet faltered under a new kind of assault. Not just weapons, but deception, unpredictability, and cunning. The tools humans wielded like no other. "The aliens," Masters of war and logic had never encountered a force that combined intellect with audacity so flawlessly. For the crew, exhaustion pressed heavy, but their hearts remained alive with determination. Each member knew the stakes, each felt the weight of history pressing on their shoulders. Humans were fragile, yes, but fragile could endure. Humans were mortal, yes, but mortality did not define their courage. Above them, stars twinkled like witnesses to the unfolding saga. The Virelians' fear, once unimaginable, began to shape their downfall. And in that growing shadow, humans discovered their greatest power. The certainty that no matter the darkness, ingenuity, resilience, and spirit would light the way. Elara's voice resonated across the bridge. We do not wait for destiny to choose. We forge it, and today we show the universe what humans can become. The Odyssey drifted through the shattered remains of what was once a flawless Virelian formation. Space around them shimmered with chaos, burning debris, malfunctioning drones, and the occasional explosion that painted the darkness red and gold. The humans were small against this galactic storm, yet their minds had carved order from chaos. Captain Elara Wynn stood at the center of the bridge, the soft hum of the ship beneath her feet the only sound louder than her heartbeat. This is it, she said, her voice calm yet unwavering. We've destabilized their fleet, but the real battle begins now. Cale Arden, still pale from hours of unrelenting tension, turned toward her. The dreadnoughts, they're regrouping. This time they'll anticipate the tricks. Elara shook her head, her eyes gleaming with conviction. They anticipate patterns, Cale, not instinct. Humans are not predictable. And we have something they never will, our courage. Below deck, Mira Solon and Terran Voss fine-tuned the Labyrinth Protocol, a complex web of holographic decoys, electromagnetic pulses, and gravitational distortions. Every maneuver was designed to create confusion, forcing the Virelians to fight ghosts while leaving real vulnerabilities exposed. Mira exhaled sharply. It's risky. If we miscalculate even slightly, the Odyssey could be torn apart. Terran's gaze softened, filled with quiet determination. Humans survive because we do the impossible when it matters most. Trust in that. The bridge shook as a volley of energy beams streaked past, barely missing the Odyssey. The Virelians were closing in, and their frustration was palpable, echoing in every misfire and failed maneuver. Elara, Kyle muttered, voice tight. They've adapted to the Mirage drones. Some are ignoring the decoys entirely. She nodded, eyes unflinching. Good, that's exactly what we wanted. Their discipline has turned into rigidity. And rigidity, Kyle, is their weakness. The Labyrinth Protocol sprang to life. Tiny drones streamed across the battlefield, projecting illusions of massive fleets where none existed. Electromagnetic pulses masked the Odyssey's signature, while holographic projections tricked the Virelians into attacking each other. Ships collided, engines exploded, and the dreadnoughts found themselves trapped in a self-made storm of chaos. On the bridge, the crew held their breath as the first cracks appeared in the alien formation. Every misfire, every exposed weak point was another opportunity for humans to reclaim dominance. Yet with victory came fear, real human fear. Elara felt it in the tightness of her chest, in Cale's trembling hands, and in the silent tension of her crew. We cannot forget, she said softly. Victory is not guaranteed, but our resolve is. A massive Virelian flagship appeared on the sensors, moving directly toward the Odyssey, its energy beams ignited with terrifying intensity. A torrent of destruction aimed to obliterate the humans. The bridge fell silent, all eyes on the approaching storm. Elara, we can't outgun it, Cale shouted, desperation creeping into his voice. No, she admitted, her tone steady, but we can outthink it. With a flick of her hand, the Odyssey twisted into the heart of the Labyrinth Protocol. Holographic fleets surrounded the flagship, while subtle gravitational pulses disrupted its weapons alignment. The massive ship fired blindly, energy beams scattering into phantom targets. In the chaos, humans struck. Coordinated drone strikes disabled key systems, and the Odyssey's own weapons targeted the flagship's exposed engines. Fire erupted, consuming the alien vessel as it spun out of control, a comet of destruction against the void. Kyle exhaled in disbelief. We did it. Elara's eyes scanned the remaining Virelian ships. Not yet, she said quietly. This is only the beginning. But the seeds are planted. Their fear is real now. They understand. Humans are not predictable. Humans do not surrender. Below deck, Mira and Terran allowed themselves a moment to breathe, sharing a quiet glance. We're changing history, Mira whispered. Terran nodded. Not just history. The universe is learning what humans are capable of. Hours blurred into tense minutes. The Virelian fleet, once imposing and unshakable, now faltered under human cunning and adaptability. The aliens' strict logic could not survive the unpredictable creativity and daring of human minds. And in that moment, among the shattered stars and glowing wreckage, humanity revealed its true strength. Not the weapons they wielded, not the numbers they commanded, but the spirit that refused to bow, the courage that refused to waver, and the ingenuity that refused to be limited. Elara's voice carried across the bridge a beacon of unwavering conviction. We do not fight for fear or hatred. We fight for survival, for ingenuity, and for the light that shines in every human heart. Today we remind the universe that humans cannot be conquered, not by numbers, not by logic, not by fear. Above them, stars shimmered as if bearing witness, and somewhere in that infinite darkness, a legend was being forged, not in conquest but in courage, in brilliance, and in the indomitable spirit of humanity. The void had grown quieter, but only in appearance. The remnants of the Virelian armada drifted like wounded beasts, their disciplined formations fractured beyond repair. From the bridge of the Odyssey, Captain Elara Wynn watched the aftermath with a sharp, calculating gaze. Victory had not yet been claimed, but the path was clear, and the humans had carved it with ingenuity, courage, and audacity. Cale Arden leaned over the tactical console, scanning the scattered fleet. Captain, they're still trying to regroup, but their efficiency is gone. Their logic is failing, Elara nodded. Good. That's exactly what we need. Humans win not because we outgun, but because we outthink. And right now, we have the advantage. Below deck, Mira Solon and Terran Voss coordinated drone strikes with precision. Every decoy, every holographic illusion, every calculated disruption forced the Virelians to make mistakes. Some ships collided, others misfired, and in each misstep humans found openings. Mira wiped sweat from her brow. They've lost confidence. They don't understand how we do this, and that's what terrifies them. Terran's eyes softened. Humans aren't perfect, Mira, but perfection isn't what wins wars. Creativity, courage, and trust, those are our weapons. On the bridge, Elara's voice rang clear, steady, commanding. Cale, initiate the Reaper sweep. Target the crippled dreadnoughts and scattered frigates. Focus on precision. Avoid unnecessary casualties. Cale hesitated for only a moment before responding. Understood, Captain. Reaper sweep engaged. The Odyssey's weapons fired with calm, calculated precision. Each shot struck where the Virelians were weakest, dismantling engines, disabling weapons, and severing command structures. Unlike the chaotic flurry of earlier battles, this was deliberate, surgical, a demonstration of human ingenuity at its most disciplined. Yet as humans gained control, the weight of moral responsibility pressed heavily on Elara. Every disabled ship was a life snuffed out. Every tactical success carried the knowledge that war was never without cost. She turned to her crew, eyes softening. We are clever, we are daring, we are unstoppable. But we must never forget that the universe we conquer is made of lives. Even those of our enemies. Cale nodded, understanding the depth behind her words. We're not just fighting for survival. We're fighting to show what humanity can be. As the Odyssey's fleet, small yet brilliant, swept through the wreckage, the Virelians faltered completely. Panic, confusion, and fear now guided their decisions. Ships retreated without orders. Leaders hesitated, and in that hesitation humanity's cunning shone brightest. Then a new variable emerged. A massive Virelian command ship appeared at the edge of the battlefield. One last attempt to rally the shattered fleet. Its energy pulsated like a heartbeat, almost defiant. Kyle frowned. They're trying for one last coordinated strike. If it succeeds, it could undo everything. Elara's eyes narrowed. No, we anticipated this. Humans never rely on luck, they rely on strategy. Miratarin, prepare the Phantom Network. Kale, we need the Odyssey at the center. Below deck, Mira's fingers flew across the control panel, weaving a tapestry of holograms and drones that would make the command ship see enemies that didn't exist. Terran fine-tuned the electromagnetic pulses to scramble navigation and communications. The final confrontation began. The command ship fired relentlessly, energy beams cutting through space with lethal precision. Yet each strike found only illusions. The Odyssey weaved through phantom fleets, drawing the enemy closer into the trap. Elara, it's working. Kale breathed, awe mingled with disbelief. Humans are never predictable, she said quietly, almost to herself, and that is why we endure. As the command ship fell into the web of deception, the Odyssey struck. Coordinated drone attacks disabled engines, severed power conduits, and left the massive vessel adrift. Its crew, once confident and disciplined, now faced the stark reality of human ingenuity, intelligence, unpredictability, and courage that could never be calculated. The bridge erupted in restrained celebration. Humanity had turned the tide. The Virelian fleet, vast and terrifying, had been broken by cunning and spirit rather than sheer firepower. Elara looked out at the stars, her heart steady yet filled with profound emotion. "This is only the beginning," she said softly. "The universe will remember that humans are clever, resilient, and unyielding. We survive not because we are the strongest, but because we refuse to surrender to fear, logic, or despair." Kyle placed a hand on her shoulder, voice quiet yet firm. "Captain, today, we made history." Elara's gaze drifted to the scattered, broken remnants of the Virelian fleet. "No," she replied, eyes shining. "Today we showed the universe what humanity truly is." Above them, stars glittered like distant witnesses, each one reflecting the beginning of a legend. Not of conquest, not of dominance, but of cleverness, courage, and an unbreakable spirit. And in that infinite silence, the humans understood. They were more than survivors. They were pioneers, writers of destiny, and the very embodiment of hope. The battlefield was no longer a place of sheer firepower. The void had become a chessboard, and humans were the grandmasters. Every remaining Virelian ship, every flicker of energy, was a piece to manipulate, trap, and outthink. The once mighty alien armada was fractured, their confidence shattered. Yet one last force loomed, a remnant fleet led by the Virelian High Commander, an entity whose reputation alone inspired dread across star systems. On the bridge of the Odyssey, Captain Elara Wynn stood poised, her hands resting lightly on the control console. The weight of the universe pressed on her shoulders, but her mind was as sharp as the first day of battle. "Kyle," she said softly, "this is the moment that defines us, not by numbers, not by firepower, but by ingenuity, courage, and unity. Humans win when we refuse to be predictable." Kale Arden's eyes met hers, determination burning in their depths. "We've learned their logic, Captain. We've turned their discipline against them. Now, we finish it." Below deck, Mira Solon and Terran Voss worked tirelessly to orchestrate the final labyrinth. A network of holographic decoys, gravitational distortions, and drone strikes designed to disorient the High Commander's fleet completely. Mira's hands shook slightly. "If this fails, if even one ship reaches us," Terran placed a firm hand over hers, "then we adapt. We survive because we are human. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward despite it." The final engagement began. The Odyssey moved through the darkness like a phantom, weaving through streams of enemy fire that struck nothing but illusions. Drones swarmed, creating holographic fleets and false energy signatures that misled the Virelians at every turn. From the tactical console, Kale tracked the enemy's disarray. "They're panicking, Captain. Even the High Commander is making mistakes." Elara's lips curved into a subtle smile. "Perfection cannot survive against unpredictability. Humans turn chaos into advantage. We survive where others fail because we think beyond rules." A massive dreadnought loomed, the flagship of the Virelian High Commander. Its weapons glowed with lethal intensity, and for a moment the bridge of the Odyssey felt the weight of impending doom. Elara, their firepower, Kale began. She cut him off, calm and resolute. Our strength isn't in matching theirs. It's in outthinking them. With a subtle shift of the Odyssey's trajectory, the ship slipped into the heart of the final labyrinth. Holographic fleets multiplied. Gravitational distortions pulled the enemy into false positions and drones targeted critical systems. The Virelians fired blindly, energy beams tearing through phantom targets while the Odyssey maneuvered with surgical precision. For the first time, the High Commander's own crew hesitated. Their calculations failed them, their instincts confused by the humans' brilliance. The once invincible war machine now floundered. Elara's voice carried across the bridge, firm and unwavering. We fight not just for survival, but for every human who refuses to bow, who refuses to be calculated, who refuses to surrender to fear. Today we show the universe who we are. Kale's fingers danced across the console, coordinating the final strikes. Drones disabled weapon arrays, fractured engines, and severed communications. One by one, Virelian ships were incapacitated, drifting helplessly in the void. Below deck, Mira and Terran exhaled collectively, the tension of hours releasing in a quiet moment of awe. We actually did it, Mira whispered, tears glistening. Terran nodded. Humans survive not because we are the strongest, but because we refuse to be predictable, we refuse to surrender, and we refuse to let fear dictate our fate. On the bridge, Elara watched the last Virelian ships falter. The High Commander's flagship, once the embodiment of terror, now drifted powerless, its systems failing. A hush fell across the Odyssey, not of relief but of reverent recognition of what had been achieved. "Kyle," Elara said softly, "look out there. The stars, they remember. They shine brighter because humans dared to challenge the impossible and refused to yield." Kale followed her gaze, awe and admiration filling his chest. We've done more than survive, Captain. We've written a legend." Elara's eyes glimmered with quiet pride. "And legends, Kale, are not written by strength alone. They are written by courage, ingenuity, and spirit. Humanity will not be forgotten in the stars." The Odyssey drifted amidst the wreckage, a solitary beacon of resilience and brilliance. Around them, the cosmos whispered a new truth. Humans were clever, daring, and unyielding. The Virelian armada lay defeated not by force alone, but by the unpredictable brilliance of a species that refused to be tamed. And in the silence that followed the final battle, humanity understood something profound. Victory was not just survival. It was the recognition that ingenuity, courage, and heart could challenge the impossible and win. The battlefield was silent now, but not peaceful. Among the remnants of shattered Virelian ships and drifting debris, the Odyssey moved with quiet grace, a symbol of human ingenuity, courage, and perseverance. Stars reflected off its hull, distant witnesses to a story no one had believed possible. A story of humans challenging the unstoppable and emerging victorious. Captain Elara Wynn stood at the bridge, her hands resting lightly on the control console. Around her, the crew moved with calm precision, fatigue and relief interwoven in their movements. They had faced the impossible and they had prevailed. But triumph was more than survival. It was the understanding of what they had accomplished. Kale Arden approached, eyes filled with awe. "Captain, the Virelians, they're retreating completely. They've never seen anything like this," Elara nodded. "No species has. Not because we are stronger, but because we are unpredictable, clever, and unyielding. That is humanity's gift. That is humanity's legend." Below deck, Mira Solon and Terran Voss were quietly assessing the final drone outputs, ensuring that no threat remained. Mira exhaled slowly. "We actually did it, all of it. Against impossible odds." Terran gave a small smile, eyes reflecting a mixture of exhaustion and wonder. It wasn't just drones or tactics. It was human spirit. Every decision, every risk, every ounce of courage. We wrote this story together. Elara turned to the crew. "Look out there," she said, her voice resonant and warm. "Every star you see is a witness. Today, the universe has learned that humans are not to be underestimated. Our strength lies not in weapons, not in numbers, but in heart, ingenuity, and courage." The Odyssey's sensors picked up scattered Virelian ships retreating into the far reaches of space. Their discipline, once their greatest strength, had crumbled under human unpredictability. Where they relied on logic and precision, humans relied on creativity, instinct, and the refusal to yield to fear. Kale exhaled, a mixture of relief and disbelief. We've changed everything, haven't we? Elara's gaze swept across the stars. Not just changed. We've reminded the cosmos that humans cannot be conquered, not by logic, not by force, not by fear. We survive, we adapt, and we endure. That is our gift, and that is our legacy. A gentle hush settled over the bridge. The crew, exhausted yet alive with wonder, understood that this moment would be remembered across generations. Humanity had not merely fought. They had demonstrated the essence of what it meant to be human: resilience, ingenuity, and courage in the face of the impossible. Mira whispered, almost to herself, "Legends. They're written in moments like this." Terran nodded, eyes glistening. "And now, ours will be written among the stars." Elara turned to her crew, pride shining in her eyes. "We've done more than survive. We've shown that even the smallest, most improbable species can rise, overcome, and leave a mark on the universe. Let every world we encounter know this. Humans are cunning, resilient, and unyielding. And we will endure." The stars shimmered above them, eternal witnesses to the Odyssey's journey. Somewhere in the endless darkness, the whispers of human ingenuity and courage spread. Stories of clever humans turning the impossible into triumph. Stories that would inspire generations. Stories that would remind every being in the universe that humans could never be calculated, never be conquered. Kale placed a hand on Elara's shoulder. "Captain, today we didn't just win, we became legend." Elara smiled, her eyes reflecting the brilliance of 1,000 distant suns. "Yes, Kale, and legends. Endure forever." The Odyssey glided forward into the endless expanse of stars, a solitary yet brilliant beacon. Humanity's cunning had overthrown a doomed armada. Humanity's courage had defied the impossible. Humanity's spirit had carved its name into the cosmos. And as the stars sparkled, distant and eternal, a truth became undeniable. The universe had witnessed the rise of a species that would never bow, never surrender, and never be forgotten. The legend of humans, brilliant, daring, and unstoppable, was written in the stars.